The village of Juan Mata Ortiz is situated along the banks of the Palanganas River in the high northern plains of Chihuahua, Mexico. Home to approximately 2,000 people, this farming and ranching community was named in honor of a 19th century local hero in the war with the Apache. During the past 25 years, some extraordinary things have occurred in this modest town. Over 300 people, that's 15% of the population, have become potters, and Mata Ortiz has become the center of a revival of a centuries old ceramic tradition. Pottery revivals, of course, have taken place in other communities, most notably at Hopi and San Ildefonso, Mexico, or in Arizona and New Mexico. However, in such cases, the artists were aided by discoveries of archaeologists and the interpretation of museums. In Mata Ortiz, however, the current revival is the result of the efforts and experimentations of a single individual, Juan Quezada. Working from the pot shards and pottery he found in the caves around his village, Juan Quezada single-handedly rediscovered the material and techniques necessary to reproduce Casa Grande style polychrome pottery. The pottery work in the Casa Grandes flourished between the years 1175 and 1400 and is closely related to the large family of Pueblo pottery. Its culture is known from archaeological excavations, but it has not received as much attention as some other cultures. Thus, without the influence or directions of scholars, books, or other expert opinions, Quezada reinvented the Casa Grande's fabrication technique and extrapolated entire forms and designs through his own insight and imagination. According to authority and exhibition curator Bill Gilbert, the forms and designs of pottery created during the early part of the revival naturally were more closely aligned with the prehistoric Casa Grande's tradition. Recent work, on the other hand, has evolved and reflects a more contemporary and personal response to the same ancient source. Thus, the product of the revival movement falls somewhere between traditional craft and contemporary art. Some potters maintain a strong stylistic link to the prehistoric convections, while others lean towards stylized realism, and others prefer purely geometric motifs. The range of Quezada's innovations is staggering, says Gilbert, the single most important innovation being the break with horizontal banding in the design system. Quezada attempts to acknowledge the three-dimensional essence of the object by overlapping designs, often on a diagonal axis, thus energizing the design and suggesting movement. Quezada forms his pottery by hand through the use of a rounded plaster mold as a base. While the clay of the pots is still green, the forms are scraped with a piece of hacksaw blade until the desired shape is achieved. When the pots are bone dry, the artist sands and polishes them to a high finish with a stone or deer bone, with a little vegetable oil acting as a lubricant. The pots are then painted with clay slips and mineral pigments using brushes made of as few as 4 or 5 strands of human hair. After being preheated in a kitchen oven, the pots are fired one at a time in an inverted flower pot sagger covered with manure or cottonwood bark. Interestingly, the potters of Mata Ortiz do not consider themselves to be the direct descendants of the Casa Grande's culture. They have no ongoing traditions to connect them, and no memory or recent history of relatives being involved in pottery making. Pottery, its process or the product, has never been an important aspect of the lives of the community's inhabitants. Even today, the potters of Mata Ortiz rarely keep examples of their own work for use or display in their own homes. Clearly, the driving force behind this clay renaissance is economic. Quezada's departure from original ancient styles has inspired his followers to be equally experimental. Younger potters learn by emulating the master, but then go down 2 pages. With experience and a self-confidence, develop a new direction, their own style that distinguishes themselves from the master and each other. It is the marketplace that serves as primary impetus to develop a new style, and it is the same economics that will determine its success. Economic considerations certainly have encouraged many residents of Mata Ortiz to turn to pottery as a craft and livelihood. The town was very poor for a long period of time, and conditions offered little opportunity for any kind of improvement. Indeed, the primary options for men included working for the railroad or for fruit growers or subsistence farming and ranching. Women had little to no opportunity for gainful employment. Quezada's initial success and financial reward inspired and excited others to follow his lead. Quezada shared his discoveries with family and friends, and in so doing, fostered the beginning of a social school of pottery. Aspiring potters, some with little or no experience, would learn from Quezada until they also emerged as mature, independent artists to guide and nurture others. What has not been fully studied or explained is how such a modest community could produce such a large and disproportionate number of skilled and productive artisans in such a short period of time. The potters of Mata Ortiz, transforming a tradition, includes approximately 50 ceramic works and is accompanied by a colorist illustrated catalog. The exhibit is curated by Bill Gilbert, Assistant Professor, University of New Mexico, Albuquerque, and is organized by the University of New Mexico. This exhibition is a program of Exhibits USA, a national division of Mid-America Arts Alliance, is generously supported by the National Endowment for the Arts Challenge Grant Program and the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Additional support has been provided by the H&R Block Foundation, Cooper Foundation, Richard Florsheim Art Fund, Samuel H. Kress Foundation, and the state arts agencies of Arkansas, Kansas, Illinois, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas. And that is it.